Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Namo Namaha, Jai Ganesha. Today we're going to talk about the wisdom of Ganapati and Saraswati, cultivating the Atmana. Now if we look at Ganapati, we all know as Hindus that is our first deity that we always beseech, no matter if you're a Saivite or a Vaishnavite or a Shaktite. We always start with Mahaganapati, and we know why. Because he was created off of the mud of his Ma Parvati. So earthiness, earth is first. And that's also the first chakra, Muladhara chakra. And also the first chakra is all about memory, and we never want to forget who we are. Tattvamasi, that's the essence of the Hindu yoga dharma. So for so many reasons, we all know why we beseech Mahaganapati first. You can go back over our videos and podcasts where we go more in depth in all of this. But excuse me, also remember that the primal sound is the first utterance, the first emanation of creation, sound vibration, and that's synonymous with Ganapati and the sacred Om, which we know is spelled A-U-Um or A-U-M, but we often see it spelled O-M, which we'll get into here when we talk about cultivating the Atmana. So let's look at Ma Saraswati for a moment. And what is the meaning of her name? Saraswati, flow having, or having flow. In other words, to get to this pinnacle of realization, which Ma Saraswati represents, the epitome of arts, purity, culture, we have to practice. Dosadrista mahur mahuha. Again and again and again. Just look at all the classic Hindu arts. They're all religious arts, whether it's painting, sculpture, music, dance, and it should hold true to the yogas also. Remember that this Sanskrit, Tamil, Hindu word yoga, yogam, actually has nothing to do with the physical body, but it's everything about yoking, yuj, Y-O-K-E, to one's Atmana and then Brahman. Yuj Atman Brahman Cha. And we Hindus do that by living the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical, it's all of those things, lifestyle of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Mantra Yoga, Japa Yoga, Nada Yoga, Natha Yoga, Kundalini Yoga. And it's so sad that we Hindus, we haven't stepped up to the plate. We haven't really done our work, which we're going to get into today, of protecting the Dharma. We're great at producing, but not very good at protecting. And again, visit some of our other videos and podcasts to really get a grip on this. So some Hindus are standing up today, but better late than never, but we've got a long way to go, my friends. So let's look at Ma Saraswati and her Vahana. Of course, Ganesha's Vahana is the humble little Mushika, and the Vahanas are very, very important. Sometimes we overlook them, but there's great wisdom there. With Ganesha and Mushika, Mushika, the mouse knows everything. We have to be very grounded in earthiness and feel very comfortable moving through the world like a little mouse. Knowing all the nooks and crannies of existence itself through our many lifetimes, samsara. So we go from Ganapati as a foundation, and we rise up, and this is the wisdom of following our sampradayas. As we go up the chakras, and we go up the human body, and we go up in our realizations. So for example, in Saivism, we have Ganapati, and then Muruga, and then Shiva Shakti. Or Vaishnavism, Ganapati, Krishna, Vishnu, Lakshmi, Ganapati, Hanuman, Sitaram. And then in the Shakti Dharma, Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Kali, Durga, Parvati. So we have a good foundation, which takes us up to the goal. And in this case, we're going to use Mahasaraswati as the goal of having flow, being accomplished. Remember, come on, folks. Again, back in the arts, you know it takes more than 200 hours to become accomplished. And yet we're letting people get away with this so-called Yoga Alliance 200-hour certification stuff. Totally insulting, totally bogus, actually. So to reach this pinnacle of Saraswati, look at her Vahana as Hamsa. Because again, it's so beautiful. The Rishi's understanding, the word for swan is Hamsa. Hamsa means that I am, or Saham, or Soham, classic. I am that. What? I am the Atmana, Tattvamasi. Remember, Atmana is not soul. That's different. Soul is still connected to your mind. Atmana is not the mind, nor the body, nor the emotions. Temporarily inhabiting the body, mind, and emotion complex. but transcends it in certainly sleep and then in deep contemplation and certainly a physical death. The Atmana. Hamsa, Saham, Soham. There was a little song in English a while back. There are no useless moments. That's the way it seems to me. Every instant has its purpose. It's all meaningful, you see, 'cause every moment you are being the person you become. And you're growing and growing and growing. So hum, so hum, so hum. So hum, so hum, so hum. Hamsa, saham, so hum. Hamsa. And look at the wisdom of picking the swan here. And this is a symbolism also used, I think, in the Vedantan societies. Remember, all you Vedantists, though, that's the end. You have to start at the beginning to get to the end. It's Dvaita to Advaita. But the swans sitting on the blue lake, solitary swan. And if you spend time around those creatures, we have a few of them in our bay here. And they're very beautiful, obviously. They always stay pristine white. They're grooming themselves almost constantly. They have that flow of their beautiful neck, their long neck, which is so muscular and so flexible at the same time. Just like Ganesha's trunk, right? It's strong, flexible, sensitive, all three. So the neck of the swan is the same thing. And they're very independent birds. They really need no one. They go off by themselves, seem very comfortable in any kind of weather. They can walk, they can float, they can fly. Very independent, very strong animals. And you have to be careful with the males. I mean, they have no problem attacking a big 6-foot person if you get too close. Right? So they're very, very independent. So again, it was wonderful symbolism for all of us becoming a Swami at some point in our life, mastering ourselves, realizing our Atmana. The independence of the Atmana. It's dependent on the physical body, yes. But that won't always be. But there is an independence in the Atma Darshana Paramo Dharma. Remember, that's our supreme Dharma. Atma Darshana Paramo Dharma. And at that point, we remain silent also. Mauna Vakya Parabrahman. So the beautiful imagery of the swan. So let's make an acronym out of SWAN. See the wisdom of Atma through Niyama. S.W.A.N. See the wisdom of Atmana through Niyama. Okay, so we know Atmana. Wisdom is important, obviously. Remember, wisdom is the ability to discern difference. Not sameness, but difference. It's wisdom. And remember, wisdom and judgment, reason, logic, judgment, these are all the beginning parts of samadhi. And then we see the wisdom of Atmana through cultivating niyama. Means we have to work at it. You know, a yogi, and remember, true yogis and yoginis are renunciates. They're off the grid. Right? Remember, fellow Hindus, we're all yogis and yoginis in the sense that we live the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical lifestyle. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, jnana yoga, hatha yoga, mantra yoga, japa yoga, nada yoga, nata yoga, kundalini yoga. I know we're going through this fast, but you can review some of our other podcasts. And remember, of all those classic yogas, the only one that the rishi said, don't display it, was hatha yoga. Hatha vidya bhaviriyavate guya nivedatu prakashavaranam. But sadly, because of our weakness, our capitulation, or perhaps our misguided universalism, yoga's not for everybody. It's for anybody who wants to do it, but it's not for everybody. That's as fundamentalist universalist as those who say Jesus is for everybody. Be careful with that, Hindus. So this niyama is the cultivating, the hard work of cultivating the Atmana. We are the Atmana, yes, but it's covered up. It's covered up with all kinds of things. That's why we as Saiva Hindus wear the Tripundra, to remind us every day to get rid of greed, anger, lust, lobha, krodha, kama, through dana, dayadvam, damyata, through giving, through compassion, through control. Then it uncovers the true nature of who we really are. We are the Atmana. Just like the sun. As powerful as the sun is, Surya, it can be obliterated by the clouds, the thickness of the clouds. So every day we try to remove the greed, anger, lust, pride, delusion, arrogance, ignorance, all those nasty things that we humans go through. We need to cultivate, work hard. So even in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali likens, they've been totally distorted, beyond recognition. Patanjali likens the yogi to a kshetrikavat, a farmer. Yeah, we have to plant. We have to cultivate the field. We have to plant. We have to nurture all these are wonderful analogies for cultivating Atma Darshana. Work at it. And in these classic Yoga Sutras, we find one small portion. Remember, you have to read the whole thing and put it in context. But in the Astanga portion, right, which is a small portion of the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali gives the yamas and the niyamas. The restraints are first, the yamas, and then we cultivate, right? So remember our restraints: ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. And then we go to the niyamas, and we have saucha, purity. So cultivating, really working on that purification process, right? Which is really the uncovering of that which is always there. We don't get Atma Darshana. We already have it, it's just covered up. We remove the obstacles through cultivation, through restraint, right? Those are the do-nots, if you will, that all religions have, and all societies have them, in all parts of life. You have your ethical codes of conduct. So we have the restraints, the yamas, and then we cultivate. And, here's a little personal note that my Guruji, K.P. Subramanya Swami, who was from Tamil Nadu, but I met him when he was living in Fiji. They came as indentured servants, like happened under the British Raj many, many years ago, and he stayed in Fiji. And he was a very firm Muruga devotee. Hence the name Subramanyam. So living with Guruji was just so wonderful. I mean, he was a living example of a true yogi living the lifestyle. So we would get up every morning, 4:30. We do our little meditations, and then we bathe, and then we'd go into the mandir and do our pujas and a little more meditation. Then we go to work in a nice piece of land there, and we would cultivate pineapples and peanuts, vegetables. We had a little rice paddy. But I can always remember, it sticks in my mind today. He'd say, okay, Chela, Shishya, grab the godadi, which was the word for the hoe, and let's go to work. And what's a hoe for? The hoe, H-O-E, godadi, is for clearing the land, preparing it, getting the weeds out. Right? The old-time hoe with big blade, and then you'd have a piece of stick sticking in there, heavy stick. Pretty heavy instrument. And so I'd grab the hoe. So just like we made an acronym out of S.W.A.N, see the wisdom of Atma through cultivation, through niyama. See the wisdom of Atmana through niyama, cultivation. Let's look at the word hoe. And those of us in the West, we know that that's a slang word for a whore, right? A hoe. Think about that for a moment. What is a whore? A whore, a prostitute, is someone who sells their self. And this can be in many ways. In fact, if you want to really be honest, look at today's yoga. It's really prostitution by hoes, by whores, selling. And many Hindus are capitulating to it. They're selling these sacred Hindu yoga teachings and practices. And in all the religions of the world, the basic teachings were always given on a donation basis. That's because it's so special. You can't buy and sell the gifts of the Spirit or the Atmana to us. And it's so that everyone can come. But it's become a crass business. It's really been prostituted. It's interesting. If you really look up the word Hanu, now we don't want to use this as a negative towards Hanuman, but Hanu in Sanskrit actually means a broken, because that's where you get the word Hanuman from, broken jaw. But Hanu is also a word for a broken woman or a prostitute. Very interestingly, just around the corner from our ashram, we have a phony yoga studio. It's called Hanu Yoga. So I have no idea if they know that that word means prostitute. Well, they do now, because years ago I sent them an email message and just reminded them that what they were doing was not really ethical and honest, because it wasn't Hindu yoga. Remember, all non-Hindu yoga is really hot yoga, meaning stolen, another street term. So I reminded them that Hanu meant prostitute, and all I got was a sharp retort back, well, so is your mother. Come on, that was it. They've never been here, never, all the yoga studios around it, they never come here. They want nothing to do with Hinduism. So all of you who think that people who are into yoga today, and Ayurveda, chakras, Kundalini, all of that, you think they're interested in Hinduism? You're fooling yourself. We have them often call the ashram inquiring about classes. And I will always say, oh, you're interested in studying the Hindu Dharma? No. They'll say, no, I don't want the Hindu part. I want the yoga part. See? So sad that we've let this go. And many Hindus are capitulating to it. So let's look at the word ho and make an acronym out of it. Hindu, Om, Ekadantaya. Again, we see it spelled O-M, but it's A-U-M, right? But we have to recognize who we are, first and foremost. We are Hindus. Remember, that is really not a foreign word. Whether you use the H or not, it doesn't matter. You find it in the Rig Veda. Indu Hindu, Samudra Idyarti Vayu Beer. Indu Hindu, with the support, beer of the breath, Vayu, grab a hold, Idyarti, of the cosmic ocean within you, the Atma, Atma Darshana, Paramudharma. Indu Hindu, Samudra Idyarti Vayu. And it's a beautiful word. If you look up Indu, it means Chandra, Sarid, Soma, Bindu. Wow, that's profound. Because there you have the worship of the moon and Shiva, Chandra. The Matajis, Sarid, the rivers, all the Matajis. The Bindu is the mark of a Hindu, and it also represents the rising sun, Surya. So there you have the three sampradayas. Saivism, Shaktiism, Vaishnavism. Chandra, Sarid, Bindu, and then Soma is the inner nectar that's inside of all of us, the Amritam. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Shanti Shanti Shantihi. You all know this. The inner nectar, the Amritam, the Soma nectar. That was an outward concoction, perhaps, but also it represents the inner bliss, the Amritam, the Antar Amritam. So we're Hindus. Recognize that. And what do? We chant Om, 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 Om. We have so many slokas. I mean, it's unending. You'll spend your whole lifetime and then some. Researching and finding new slokas all the time, right? There's just so much there. But all you have to do is chant Om with sincerity. Om, 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 Om. Because what it is, that's why it's synonymous with Ganapati, because it's animal, human, divine. Vaishvanara, Tejasya, Prajna. Takes you right through an evolutionary process. Om, 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 Om. We chant Om with sincerity. Vaishvanara, Tejasya, Prajna, Turiya. Silence in between. Mandukya Upanishad. We're Hindus, we chant Om. And we arrive at humility. Ekadantaya, Ganesha's one tusk. Humility is wisdom. Humbleness. Not being humiliated, Hindus. We've been humiliated far too long. We have to put a stop to that. We have to be like Hanuman and Skanda Muruga Krishna, and like Ganapati, who stood up, right? That's why we have the Bala Ganapati behind us. That's the young Ganapati who stood up, even in the face of Mahadeva Shiva. Stood up to protect his dharma, protect his Mataji. Bala Ganapati. Be firm, stand up for the dharma, stand up for principles. And of course we know what happened. He lost his head. And we've talked about this in other podcasts, but quickly, what does that mean? That means that when you stand up, which you must do, you will not always win. Sometimes you lose, and sometimes you lose big. But it all turned out good in the end, ultimately. Got the elephant head, and he's forever known as one of the most popular deities around the world, certainly within Hinduism, fully recognizable within Hinduism. And also there's another important thing there, because Shiva cut off his head, and Shiva was his father, was his guru. When the guru cuts off your head, so to speak, what do? You run away? You hate the guru? No. Ganapati didn't do that. He continued to love his father. Yeah. Great wisdom there. Right? Obviously, that was a severe test, but the symbolism is there. Powerful symbolism. So Ekadantaya, Ganesha with the one tusk. You all know the story where he wrote no Ganapati, no Mahabharata. He wrote the Mahabharata for Sage Vashya. Broke his tusk to continue writing when his pen broke. Ekadantaya, humility. Humility is wisdom. The antithesis of being humiliated, Hindu friends, right? So, we want to see the wisdom of Atmana through cultivating niyama, hard work, cultivate the Dharma, live the Hindu yoga, religious, spiritual, scientific, philosophical lifestyle, all the classic yogas. Light your diya every day. Do your contemplations. Study outwardly and inwardly. Open the book inside of you, Yoga Swami. So, we have Hamsa again, reminding us who we are. So, here's a nice picture of Ma Saraswati with Hamsa down in the corner. Right? She's the epitome of arts and purity and culture. Yeah, and again, think how long it takes to master the Veena. To master your study. She's holding the original Vedas there in her hand. Ma Saraswati, having flow having. So cultivate the Atmana. Pick up your hoe. Don't be a hoe. Don't prostitute the teachings. Sadly it is. I mean, this infatuation with money. But it's important that you do give in return. That's why, in all the religions of the world, they offer their teachings on a donation basis. But, I mean, how do you expect the ashrams, the mandirs to survive if people don't give? I mean, we really have a big problem with that. Many Hindus come and give absolutely nothing. I mean, especially in the West, right? We have lots of bills to pay like anybody else. So, and that's the giving nature, right? It has to be that way, and the teacher has to be content with that, right? And we even have in the phony yoga movement, you can see people with videos how to make 6 figures as a yoga teacher. Come on, I mean that is so far beyond the pale. So the wisdom of having a good solid foundation, Ganesha consciousness, and then rise up. Keep practicing dosa, drista, mahur, mahuha, till you have that beautiful flow going inside of you. So that's why, as Hindus, we always chant Asato ma sad gamaya. Lead me from untruth to truth. Tamaso ma jyotir gamaya. From ignorance to a more enlightened state of being, Saraswati. And tapping into that immortal nectar within, the Amritam, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, seeking Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. And again in the Yoga Sutras, which again have been distorted, if you read them in the Sanskrit, I mean, clearly, though many can gain benefit from the Yoga Sutras, the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, and that's what he was a Saiva Hindu, his Guru was Tirunandi. His Guru brother was Tiru Mula, who wrote the famous Tiru Mantra, profound Saiva scriptures. He looks to the Agamas, Pramana, Prataksha, Anumana, Agama, Prataksha, Anumana, Agama was his Pramana, remember? Scriptures, the Saiva scriptures, like Agamas. So in his classic yamas and niyamas, right, he demands brahmachari, celibacy. Brahmachari pratishtayam virya labhyaha. So he was teaching male Hindu yogi celibates in training. And then a parigraha, non-receiving. Come on, folks, all these people with their yoga businesses and you Indian Hindus joining in on that. A parigraha is non-receiving. This is the true yogi yogini who's off the grid. Non-receiving. And he tells you why, because you'll get in touch with your true nature and who you even were before this life. Parigraha staire janma kathamta sambodha. And then we go into the cultivation of niyama. And this one should be shocking to all. in the phony yoga movement, which is really a glorification of the body. It's mostly women just showing off their bodies, right? What is purity to Patanjali? Saucha. Svanga jagupsa pairaira samsargaha. Purity is developed when you get disgusted, jagupsa, with the body of others and yourself. In other words, he's trying to force his shishyas, his chelas, so deep within that the body is seen as an impediment, right? I mean, this is serious stuff. But here's where he gives a little explanation of, because that's very harsh. Saucha, svanga jigupsa pairada samsargaha, this disgust. Because then, salmanasya ekagriindra jayatma darshana, then you will have full faith, shraddha. You'll be established in Atma Darshana. This is real tapas, right? Which he goes on in Niyama, right? You have Saucha, and then you have Santosha, which is, again, Ganesha's belly. Finding true contentment in life. Doing serious tapas, really serious discipline. Tapas is serious stuff. That's the true yogi, the renunciate, the non-receiver. And then, according to Patanjali, you must connect to the various Hindu devas and devis. Ishtadevata samprayogaha svadhyaya. This is the whole purpose of your self-study, is to connect to a Hindu deity or more. Your chosen deity, Ishtadevata. But because he was a Saiva Hindu, and a Vaishnava Hindu would tell his chelas to focus on Vishnu, he then admonishes or tells his students that yes, because I'm a Saiva Hindu and you're studying with me, we're going to have great devotion to Shiva. Ishvara Pranidhana. So, see the wisdom of Atma through cultivating niyama. And be a good ho, an ethical ho. Hindu. Om Ekadantaya. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.